Stacey, why was this not in the talks? Why was this not thought about? Why was this not a consideration?
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsulias, and with me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian?
Stacey, more injury news. My shoulder hurts, so I can't imagine how a baseball player must feel.
That's strange because my shoulder hurts too. We'll talk about that in a bit. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever our videos go live. On today's show, we're talking about Marcus Stroman's role on the team because he's going to have a role on the team.
Yep.
Because of what we're going to talk about in segment one. In segment two, we're going to talk about prospects and their ETAs because we've seen some of them in spring training and we'll talk about them. But first, we have injury updates both on DJ LeMahieu and Luis Gil. Luis Gil has the shoulder problem. Is it your right shoulder as well?
Yeah, actually. It is my right shoulder. Weird. That is kind of creepy.
That's weird. How'd that happen to you?
I don't know. I have no idea. I just started feeling it.
I slept on it wrong.
Old.
I slept on it wrong.
Yeah, we're just old.
Yeah, well, we're okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of being old, right? Your shoulder just starts to hurt. I mean, Luis Gil's younger than me.
You're not even 30 yet. That is not supposed to happen to you yet. So, do we talk about Gil or LeMahieu first? I think Gil.
Well, I was going to say LeMahieu because it's quicker, just to get it over with. It's faster. It makes more sense. So LeMahieu basically had the same reaction I had when my shoulder started to hurt, where apparently LeMahieu said to the media when his calf started to pull, "Is this some kind of sick joke?" Which is exactly what I think you'd feel if you're DJ LeMahieu. Now they're hoping that it's not serious. LeMahieu is hoping that it's not serious. But bottom line, Stacey, if you really want an update on this, they haven't even done the imaging yet. Apparently, it is still too sore to even do the imaging at this point. You know, when there's a serious injury, they'll try and get the imaging done as quickly as possible. But a little bit of an insider medical thing. Generally, they can't get imaging on something if there's too much swelling.
Right.
If there's a problem, they can't do imaging immediately because it's not going to show anything. So the longer it takes to get imaging on an injury, generally the worse the injury actually is. So it's not a good sign for DJ LeMahieu. I know he's going to try and stay confident and try and get back, and apparently he's trying to make his way back, but this is not a good sign at all.
Poor DJ. And it does feel like some sort of sick joke. Second at bat. We mentioned it on yesterday's shows. His second at bat of the spring, and he gets injured. It's like, wow.
And he did admit it's probably going to be a while until he does anything baseball related.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you're the Yankees, that's got to be your telltale sign of, I mean, where do you go from here? I mean, you have to know it's over for him. At least you can't be counting on him. If he comes back, wonderful, but you can't be counting on him at this point. My more concern Yankee-wise is, you know, we discussed this throughout the offseason, and I think it's a good point to be made. And I don't want to do too much complaining about Brian Cashman's offseason because I do think he had a very, very good offseason. But Stacey, this does beg the question. Why was there not a contingency plan made for this to happen? I mean, you could almost see this coming, right? I mean, you hope DJ LeMahieu would have stayed healthy, but him being hurt, I mean, out of all the injuries the Yankees have had so far, I think DJ's is the least surprising. That and maybe Stanton, but Stanton doesn't really get hurt in spring training very often. So I'm not remotely shocked. The fact that a plan wasn't set up for this to happen, and, you know, now it's kind of leaked out of the camp that Oswaldo Cabrera is the leading candidate for the third base job, but apparently can get stolen from him very easily. Stacey, why was this not in the talks? Why was this not thought about? Why was this not a consideration prior to this injury happening? It's not like you can sit here and say that you couldn't see this coming.
The Yankees are very stubborn in certain ways, and they just have this belief that guys are going to come back from injuries when it's proven time and time again that they're not going to come back from injuries. And of all the positions for them to not have a contingency plan for, third base is the most baffling. I would have understood this if they had signed Soto and had to, you know, use most of the money for Soto And then they had to like figure out what they were doing with the other positions. But they were able to go out and get a first baseman. They were able to go out and get Cody Bellinger. They were able to get Max Fried. There was a way they could have probably made some sort of trade to get someone to play third, or some other, I don't know, some other trade made where you wouldn't have to worry that much about DJ LeMahieu. You could keep Jazz at third, put someone else at second. Like there was a whole bunch of things they could have done.
Correct.
I just don't understand this. It's like stubbornness. They're just so stubborn when it comes to certain guys. And I don't know what it is. I want to pick Brian Cashman's brain apart sometimes, because I need to know why they are so loyal to certain guys when like this is a movie we saw coming from a mile away.
No, I'll do you one better. We watched this movie last year. This is the second straight year the Yankees have had the third highest payroll in baseball, and there's been a glaring hole at a particular position. Remember, last year going into the year, they didn't know who their left fielder was. They didn't have a left fielder. And we complained about it all offseason. And then you got to opening day, and they still didn't have a starting left fielder. They went into the season without a left fielder. They just didn't have one. And then Alex Verdugo eventually took the job, but there was never a sustainable all year, every day left fielder. And now you're going into this year with the same issue at third base, where you don't know who your guy is. They didn't name DJ LeMahieu the guy at the start of camp. So you didn't know. It was a competition the whole way along. Now it's still a competition. Stacey, I almost think you could have saved face here too if you came into the year and were like, Cabrera's our guy, Peraza's our guy, LeMahieu's our guy. Name a guy the starter. And then if he pulls his calf, if he pulls a hamstring, if something happens, then you say, all right, now it's a competition. But going into the year with this being a floating thing of let's see who takes the third base job, and then your leading candidate gets hurt, and now it feels like you have to go to the guy who's next. We still don't know if Peraza is going to get the opportunity that he's been dying for. The last time we really saw him get serious playtime was in the postseason, where he was somehow good enough of a player to get starting reps in a postseason series playing shortstop, but he can't crack the major league roster after that. I don't know how that's even possible, but I'm sorry, but Peraza to me is starting to feel like an Estevan Florial type, where you keep hearing about this guy.
He has no options left. He has no options left. So
I know. And every year, all we do is hear about, oh, he's coming. This guy's got great pop, great movement, great this, great that. Well, when are we going to see him get full play time for a serious amount of time? Because he didn't look that bad in Houston in the postseason. And that team, by the way, looked awful that entire series. That team was swept off the field, looked way worse than the Yankees of the World Series last year. So I don't know how much we have to keep going forward with having to discuss. This is the second straight year again with the third highest payroll in baseball where there's an empty position. That can't happen. And again, I don't want to sit here and poo-poo on Brian Cashman's offseason, because he had a really good offseason. He really did. He got the best closer in baseball. He got the best outfielder available in baseball. There just was that one extra piece that he didn't make the move for. And it seems like Nolan Arenado was available. And this is the point that we've made, Stacey. And there are reports that are starting to trickle out of Cardinals camp now that the Yankees have re-engaged talks. And the Cardinals have basically responded with, guess what, buddy? The price is way higher than it was a week ago. And we both kind of said that was going to happen. We said it actually before the Luis Gil injury, before the DJ LeMahieu injury. We both sat here and said the Max Fried signing was so important, because if one of your guys got hurt, it makes going out and acquiring another pitcher way harder, because now they know how desperate you are. Well, guess what, buddy? That same analogy now applies to third base. DJ LeMahieu gets hurt. You're yet to name a starter at third base. There's not really a favorite announced other than what the fan base has announced. And Stacey, now we're sitting here like, they need Nolan Arenado. And the Cardinals now know that. And the Cardinals are now going to sit here and say, guess what? That guy, George Lombard Jr. would look really good in a Cardinal uniform. Or, name Spencer Jones would look certainly really good in the cream and red. That's the problem that you've now dragged yourself into. So, and we'll get to Gil. I think we'll push it back to the next segment because we can break that down a little more. But, this has become a consistent problem. And I didn't think they had a terrible offseason last year. I didn't. And yet you still came into the league, again, same as this year, with the third highest payroll in the league, and you walked into it without a set left fielder. You didn't have one towards opening day. And yeah, eventually, Alex Verdugo took the position because no one else wanted to take it from him. And he wound up being, it was so bad they were forced to start him in the postseason because they had no other option. That's how bad it was when he couldn't hit, water if he fell out of a boat. And now you're going into the next year with, again, the third highest payroll, and you spent money in a lot of other places. But Stacey, there's still a giant hole at third base, and I just don't understand how you can go into a year like this.
Right. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notifications so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get texts from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades and signings. We send out lineups during the season, roster moves, and breaking news so you don't have to check social media. There's a 14-day free trial. Coming up next, we'll talk about Luis Gil's injury and those prospects that we were talking about. Thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. And remember, every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions under the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club and you get top priority on Fan Mail Friday. The link is in the description. So Luis Gil, MRI, shows a high-grade lat strain. He will not throw for at least 6 weeks, which is the middle of April.
Yeah.
And that's just him throwing. That's him starting all over again and throwing, which means he will not be back if everything goes right, which never happens to anyone who's injured. If everything goes right, he'll be back in June, mid-June, late June. So,
yeah. No, I agree. You've broken this down plenty of times throughout the offseason. It's more debilitating when pitchers get hurt in spring training because they have to start their whole regimen all over again. It's not like a hitter who can, practice certain things and work on things if he hurts his arm and he can still, keep his cardio up or anything. Like, pitchers get shut down completely. So he's restarting his entire offseason program as soon as he comes back. However, after seeing this report that I think Meredith broke, this is the best news possible, right? It's not season ending. You get him back in June. You're still going to have him for the bulk of your season. It just scares me with how long this injury might wind up taking. Remember, this is the same diagnosis that Clark Schmidt had last year at the end of May, and you didn't see him until September. Right. So, does June sound great? Right now, I signed for June, absolutely. I don't know if he's going to, that could be tough, though. You don't know how guys are going to recover from these kind of injuries. So, best case scenario, I think, with how the news broke yesterday, but not terrific in just him being hurt to the start of the year. I just want to see this full rotation go, a couple of times through and see how it really looks. But, this really does tie in to, what we're going to talk about later on with Marcus Stroman, because he's got his spot now. And if he actually, you know what? Let's get into Marcus Stroman now, and then we'll talk about the prospects in the next segment. Okay. This really does open up a window for Marcus Stroman to gain himself a starting spot in this rotation. Now, he came into the year, Stacey, telling us that he's a starter. No ifs, ands, or buts. He's starting. That's it. Well, guess what, buddy? You got your wish. A guy got hurt. You're now starting. Time to prove yourself, right? He has a chance to make his way onto this rotation. If Marcus Stroman comes into this year and pitches his butt off, Stacey, they'll go to a 6-man rotation. They'll have no option if he pitches that well when Gil comes back. So he's got his opportunity, but hasn't looked so good for him so far, has it?
Now, he was giving away souvenirs on Sunday.
Nice of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to make the roster at this point, right? I mean, he's going to have to be on the roster. I don't think he's much of a trade chip for them anymore, just because, I mean, you can't move him at this point. Maybe he's a midseason trade chip. Who knows? It is 2 games. I don't want to freak out with what his numbers look like. But 9.82 ERA through 2 games. He's thrown 3 2/3 innings, 2 strikeouts, 1.46 whip. Not ideal.
Yeah, home runs. Not great. Not great at all. He's not one of those overpowering guys. He's not big,
No.
They list him as my height. I don't even know if that's right. Because, when someone says a guy's 5'9",
yeah,
they're not really 5'9". It's just, he just needs to be a 5th starter. You don't need him to come out and be Garrett Cole, but we also don't need him to have a 9 ERA. It's spring training. They're working things out. But if his first couple of starts in the season are this bad, then the Yankees are in trouble. Or, they'll bring up Will Warren.
Yeah, see, my thing is, I have no problem with, using that for pitchers that I have a lot of confidence in that are going to be in the rotation. Max Fried struggles, he's working on things. Rodon struggles, working on things. Cole struggles, working on things. Marcus Stroman should be out there trying to make the roster.
Right.
Marcus Stroman should be out there.
But that's not what he's thinking. That's not his mentality.
Right. You're right, but that's a problem because his spot wasn't a guarantee on this roster. It wasn't. Simple as that. And he's out there trying to make a roster and be on a roster. And truth be told, Stacey, he's only going to be on the Yankees opening day roster because someone else got hurt. He wasn't going to make this team. There was going to be another team that there was going to be another uniform that he was wearing come the end of March. That was what was going to happen. Now they're forced to keep him. I do wonder if this forces the Yankees to go out and get Nolan Arenado, only because now if you keep Stroman on the roster, into opening day and he's on the open day roster, this is going to now have them over that Cohen tax threshold. And it felt like they were going to try and trade Stroman and they weren't going to acquire an Arenado, because if they traded Stroman and the Cardinals didn't eat a ton of that Arenado money, that was going to push them over the edge and they were going to be over the Cohen tax now. Well, now they're over it anyway. And the way the tax works is if you're getting taxed on half your money, you're getting taxed whether you go over it or you're under it. That's it. It's a flat line. So if you go over it, you're getting taxed halfway. If you stay under it, you're not getting taxed halfway. So basically, now that you're over it, just pay more money and go over it at this point. Now you're over it already. Now go get Arenado. Now it doesn't matter because you're over it already at this point anyway. You can't get back under it. So I wonder if that creates pressure, but I don't know what Marcus Stroman's role is on this team. He's a 5 starter. Let's see, see what numbers you can give. I think he has an opportunity to prove himself here. He really does. Let's see if he comes in with a chip on his shoulder. But I don't know if he's going to. Marcus Stroman, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this. Marcus Stroman is a very, very confident guy. And I think often it is shown throughout his career that he thinks he is a lot better of a pitcher than he actually is. And that's not me sitting here saying he's not a good pitcher. But I think Marcus Stroman thinks he is in the class of a Garrett Cole, a Jacob deGrom, and he's not. And I wonder because I think what could be really valuable is the guy coming into next year with a chip on his shoulder. I don't know if he has a chip on his shoulder because I don't think he thinks that he's a lesser of a pitcher. I think he thinks he's an ace. So I don't know if there's a chip on his shoulder coming in.
He reminds me of Trevor Bauer in that regard.
A lot.
Like Trevor Bauer keeps talking about how he's one of the best pitchers on the planet and he can't understand why no teams would sign him. And you think to yourself, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, sure, you're one of the best pitchers on the planet because the best pitchers are usually in Major League Baseball. But, the way he was making it sound, he was putting himself with the Coles, with the deGroms, with guys that are so much better than him. And Marcus Stroman's the same way. Like, it's good to have confidence. I don't know what that's like. I've never had confidence in my life. But I actually wish I had like a 1/10 of Marcus Stroman's confidence.
Yeah, I want the guys that I root for to have that level of confidence in themselves. And I'm aware that when you're a professional athlete, that's important to have that level of confidence and that belief in yourself. And Marcus Stroman in part got to the place that he is being a 5'8" male, 9, whatever you want to call it, by having this unbelievable amount of confidence in his abilities. So I'm not taking that away from him. But Marcus Stroman carries himself like he's Garrett Cole. He does. And I don't think Marcus Stroman thinks he's not Garrett Cole. Marcus Stroman thinks he is that guy. And that is the problem with, again, if he comes into this season with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and he's got something to prove, you might get the best version of Marcus Stroman possible. You're not getting that, Stacey. You heard the comments. He didn't come out there and say, oh, we're going to see how I look coming into this season. And, I'll take the 5-starter role and prove myself again. No. He came out this spring training firing and saying, I'm a starter. I'm starting this year. It's a little bit of a different attitude than a guy that comes to that. That's not a guy looking to prove himself. That's a guy who's basically saying, I am proven and I am starting and you have no option in that. It's a little bit of a different character thing. So I don't know if he's coming into this year with something to prove. I think he thinks he's proven. And when he come into spring training pitching the way that he's pitched, that's not a good sign, Stacey.
Yeah, I kind of wish he came in with a chip on his shoulder, like mad that his name was in the trade rumors and that he wanted to have something to prove and to show the Yankees, like, I belong on the team, instead of coming in with the attitude that you described, where he's just like, I'm already established. I don't need to prove anything.
Yeah, and Garrett Cole coming in with that attitude, yeah, I understand. Max Fried coming in with that attitude, you just gave me $200 million. I'm starting. Carlos Rodon, I want a Cy Young. I'm starting. Marcus Stroman, no, you don't get to come in with that attitude, and that's not a knock on the guy. I think he's a good pitcher, but you can't come in with that attitude and then pitch to a 9 ERA in your first 2 starts. You know.
Right.
So we'll see what it winds up looking like, but I'd rather him come in with a chip on his shoulder than the attitude that he has coming in now.
Yep. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about the Yankees top prospects list, which came out. We're going to talk about everyone's updated ETAs, the top 5 prospects. We're not going to go through the whole list. We'll do that next.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. And whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. And plus, the app's really easy to use. So when you win, you get paid out instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It's an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, Stacey, interesting storylines coming into this, I guess you want to call it, prospect-laden Yankees spring training, because they've got some interesting names. They've got some top-tier guys in their system. But I don't know if we expected the ETAs of these players to be where the ETAs are. And MLB Pipeline released their official prospect rankings. The Yankees have 5 guys in the top 100. I don't know if it's top 100, but I think it is the top 100. But 5 guys in the top 100. And they're 5 guys you've heard of. If you listen to this show, you definitely have heard of them. Their ETAs, though, little different than I think we expected, particularly one guy that really sticks out to me of his ETA.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna get some flack for this in the comments. I know for sure. Well, Jasson Dominguez is the Yankees' top-rated prospect. His ETA is 2025, which is accurate. He's going to start in left field this year at opening day. Number 2 is George Lombard Jr. His ETA is 2027. I think it's worth noting, though, Stacey, the Yankees as an organization are, quote unquote, head over heels in love with George Lombard Jr. They love everything that he has to offer as a player. So I think there's a really good chance you could wind up seeing him earlier. We'll see. He's got to develop for sure, but 3 full seasons feels like a long time to see him. So we'll see when we see him for the first time.
Yeah. If he comes up earlier than expected, like if maybe they call him up at the end of 2026, at the end of that season, he'll be the same age Derek Jeter was when they called him up in 1995.
A top-tier prospect, that's not unheard of. That would make sense. Number 3, and this is the one that we were both talking about, that is the most surprising. Being number 3 on the list doesn't surprise me. It's Spencer Jones. Number 3 on the Yankee prospect pipeline makes sense. They're calling his ETA 2025. I don't envision the scenario where Spencer Jones is on this roster this year. I don't know if you do, but that to me feels crazy presumptuous, crazy confident in Spencer Jones. Listen, I don't know what he's going to be as a major leaguer. I don't necessarily have the utmost confidence that he's going to be this untradeable, can't miss prospect. I think he's gotten a little bit of that, a little early, to be honest with you. But 2025, I never envisioned a scenario where he was going to be a part of this team this year, but MLB Pipeline does.
I mean, I don't know. Are they seeing a future with Stanton being more hurt than he is, seeing a future where Dominguez doesn't work out in left, they need to bring someone else in to play outfield, and they bring up Spencer Jones at the end of the season? Like, I don't know what their scenarios are. That's the only thing I could think of, is if something goes horribly wrong and they have to get an outfielder from the minors to come up for the last month of the season and they bring up Spencer Jones. That's the one scenario that I think is maybe possible, but I was thinking more with him 2026, if
Yeah, I was
anything.
thinking September of 2026. I think to me, he was on track more for George Lombard Jr.'s track that we said, maybe like late 2026. If I'm not mistaken, he only appeared a little bit in AAA last year. And he didn't necessarily play well in AAA last year. He struggled in AA the year prior. It's not like he's not progressing, but that jump to the major leagues is known as a really significant jump. So, I'd be shocked if he made a contribution on this Yankee team this year. Maybe he appears in the September call-ups, but if he was a major contributor to this team, I think I'd be shocked, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
Number 4 is Ben Hess. We've discussed him on the show before. The ETA is 2027, a young pitcher. They believe in a lot. What do you think about this one? Because you don't hear a lot about him when you talk about the Yankees' top prospects coming out of their system. Were you shocked by this, or you think it fits perfectly?
No, I think that fits. I wouldn't have been surprised to see 2028 either, but I could see a scenario where it's 2027 for him.
He's progressing for sure. People are talking, especially in the Yankees system, about him. So we'll see if he winds up coming up. I think 2027, though, out of all these, how presumptuous they feel, I think that probably feels the most accurate right now. And then number 5 was listed as Will Warren, ETA again, 2025. He did appear last year. But I think they're, particularly as an organization, trying to instill in Will Warren this idea of, last year, you came in to help us and assist when we had injuries and stuff, but that wasn't your debut. This is your debut. I think they want him to feel like 2025 is his year. That 2024 was a year that he was helping out the team last year. Well, now it's his job to come in and take a job. And, there's a lot of confidence in Will Warren coming into this year. He's changed up his motion. He looks a lot like Michael King. He's got new stuff out there. Matt Blake apparently, dove down and broke Will Warren's mechanics down into a fine powder this offseason and looked to reinvent him a little bit. Apparently has done that. He's looked really good in spring training. We'll see, but I think me and you are both right on this. I expect big things out of Will Warren. I do. I think Will Warren is going to have a really solid year. Now, what that role looks like, I'm not necessarily sure right now, but I think he's going to have a role in the major league roster.
Yeah, like I said, was it yesterday's show? Were we talking about him yesterday? I don't know. I don't know how time goes anymore. I was saying how I think the bad experience that he had will help him become a better ball player. I think having that tough coming up, unexpected, having to help the Yankees because they were having issues in the middle of the summer. They weren't expecting to call up Will Warren. Will Warren wasn't expected to come up at all. And I think that the adversity is going to help him. I really do.
Yeah, the up and down, too. There was a period of time where they were, he knew after every start he was going to get sent down immediately.
Oh, yeah, he was on the Scranton shuttle. Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I think that, definitely humbles a player. But it hardens you, too. It gets you ready for, the adversity going through a season. Especially for pitchers, Stacey, it's a long season out there for these guys. And they, unless you're the Garrett Cole types, you go through ups and downs. You just do. That's how it works. So I agree with you. I think 2024, looking back, while it might not have been the most satisfying thing for him while the season was going on, I think looking back, he's going to feel really grateful for the way 2024 went for him. And it does seem like that, though. From the words you've heard of him, from the way he's looked in spring training, he's a man on a mission coming into this year. He is. Yeah. He's looking to take a spot, and he just might do that.
I hope so. I mean, I hope that he contributes in a big way and in a surprising way where people were thinking, like, I want it to be almost like a Melky Cabrera situation, because when he first came up in 2005, you didn't want him in the outfield at all. Mm-hmm. And then after having that bad experience and having everyone on him about it, he comes back and then doesn't go back. He stays, he remains a major leaguer, and he contributed to the team. So I'm hoping that the same thing happens for Will Warren.
Looking at this prospect list, everything seems accurate. I think the things that we would change are Lombard. I think we could see sooner than 2027. I think that actually could wind up happening, especially with the evidence of how in love the Yankees are with him. Spencer Jones, I feel like we're both in agreement. I don't know if 2025 is an accurate ETA. I think if he's up in 2025, something went wrong somewhere, and that's a concern. And Ben Hess, I think, is the one accurate that we come out of this with. ETA probably 2027 feels like the most fitting.
Yep, I would agree. Before we go, I would like to mention I'm doing Fan Mail Friday by myself, so I need more questions. Because when there's only one person doing it, we need more. I can't talk for too long about each question. So I need you guys to leave Fan Mail Friday questions either below on YouTube, below the pinned comment, or Locked On Yankees Insiders. I already sent out a message, but in case you didn't see it, I'm going to need more questions for Friday. So I just wanted to give you guys that heads up. I'm still not sure how I'm doing it. I'm either recording it Thursday night or I might do a live stream.
Stay tuned for that. I'll be in the desert in Vegas again. Yeah. And I'll be doing solo on Thursday. So you'll see me on a solo venture Thursday. So you're going to get a little bit of a Locked On Yankees split for the end of the week. Yes. And we'll be back together on Monday.
Yes. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, you can check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast with host Dominic Martino and Matthew On A. MLB Fantasy Draft season is here. Be the most informed fan and set yourself up for a league win. You can find Locked On Fantasy Baseball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.